travelers. Welcome to Life Between Flights, the podcast about life, travel industry, and owning a small business and all of the interruptions that come in between. I'm your host, Cecily Northrudo, Certified Travel Advisor, and today we are talking about how to find a host agency. So if you are a new agent, or maybe you've been around for a little bit and either you're working independently or maybe you're working with, maybe you joined a host agency and it just isn't the right fit for you, I'm going to talk a little bit about my story and finding my host agency and just all of the things to consider when joining a host agency, because there really are so many benefits to joining them. I know they're not for everybody, but today we're going to talk about my host and kind of my journey with them and just a little bit more about just host agencies in general. So that to go back to 2014, I had been executive assistant to a director for 3 years at that point, and I was really not enjoying my job anymore or my career path anymore. And my husband at the time had gotten a new job. We were going to be moving. I knew that I was going to have to find something else to do to be making money, and I had been applying for other jobs and just kept getting passed over. And so I was feeling pretty bad about myself and about life in general at the time. And I had been really enjoying booking travel for my boss and our design team because we were in the process of building new buildings. And so it was really fun to kind of coordinate these itineraries for a handful of people to go and see buildings across the country. And then my husband and I at the time had been going to Disney World and Disneyland multiple times a year. And so it was really, really fun planning all of that stuff. And I was really enjoying it. And so one night when I was trying to figure out what to do with my life, and I've talked about this before, but really becoming a travel agent just kind of popped into my head and it just wouldn't leave. So I decided to check out a book from the library about how to become a travel agent. And there were a handful of books about travel agents in general. And the one that I brought home, I could not tell you what the title was now. But back then it was basically a book about how to be a travel agent. But the biggest thing in it that I took away from it was if you really have no experience in the travel industry at all, then you should really join a host because they can help you kind of get started. They can help you with education. They can help you with meeting suppliers. You're going to get better commissions joining a host, just all of the educational stuff and the opportunities with them. So definitely. And then there was at the back of the book a huge long list of host agencies to look at. And I went to several, looked on their websites, and kind of was looking for, I was looking at the fees and commission structures and kind of what they willingly advertised on their websites, all of the information that they were willing to share online. And so I settled on Dugan's Travels. They were at the beginning of the list, and I really liked what I saw on their website. And it kind of seemed like a good fit for what I was doing. I didn't, just as far as I wasn't expecting to have $1 million sales and all of that stuff because I was so new and really had no idea what I was doing and really wanted more education and training because that's always been very important to me, is to have that education and professional development. And so I submitted my information to them through the website and had a phone call, I think the next week, talking to their new agent coordinator at the time. And in that phone call, they were talking about, well, what's your experience and kind of what led you to this decision? And so I told them, I've been booking this travel and it's been really fun for me. I really enjoy it. And I, want to turn that into a business. I want to see if I can make a go of it. And so she was like, yeah, that's exactly how a lot of our agents start, is that they've been booking travel in some capacity, and now they want to make it either a full-time job or, a side hustle, all of those things, all of those skills that we kind of gather over time, we can turn that into this business. So I joined with Dugan's Travels in October of 2014. And again, this is not sponsored, but I have been with them ever since. So I will say, and we'll talk about this later in another episode, but I joined them in October of 2014. The first year was not super successful. but also because I very quickly after joining got a full-time job. One of the jobs that I had been applying for, they actually hired me. So I was working a pretty demanding full-time job. And I just also had the assumption that people were just going to come kind of pouring out of the woodwork to find me. And that was certainly not the case. So I was just kind of expecting people to come to me for my business. And that was not a great business plan, not a great business model of just expecting people to come to you. I did have, a handful of friends and family book with me that first year. And then the second year I had quit the other job because I was, again, miserable and really hating it and wanted to do something else. And I was going to go into real estate appraisal and do all this other stuff. And that was also miserable for me. But the travel stuff kind of came there. But again, I wasn't running it as a business. I wasn't promoting myself. I wasn't networking. I wasn't doing on any of that stuff. So my business really wasn't taking off the way that I thought it was going to, but I really wasn't putting in any effort into it. So in October of 2016, when my contract came up, I just decided, I haven't really made any money at this. I'm not making any real commission. This isn't enough to sustain us. So I'm just not going to renew my contract, which Dugan's was very, they weren't pushy. They weren't disappointed. They were like, we're sad to see you go, but understand. And obviously they could see what my sales were and see what I was doing and that I wasn't really doing a whole lot. So then in 2017, ended up getting divorced. And then in 2018, I met my now husband, who was traveling. And so he was a travel nurse. And so I was going to be traveling to see him. And I was like, well, this is silly. I miss my travel business. I miss the family. I miss the people that I had gotten to know in that time. And so I had gone out to see, my boyfriend at the time in Maine. And I was like, I really want to join Dugan's again. And so I emailed and I was like, hey, it's been a minute, but I would really like to come back. Would that be okay? They welcomed me with open arms. And that was the best feeling because I kind of had a better understanding of not only what was expected of me, but also kind of the ins and outs of the industry a little bit more. And so, the first 2 years, yes, I was going to the annual conference and I was kind of being overwhelmed with suppliers, but not really understanding the business side of it and the self-promotion it takes and the networking it takes to kind of build up the business. Some people are lucky to just kind of have people coming to them, but that was certainly not the case for me. So when I rejoined in May of 2018, I had been temping for a temp agency, and then the company that I had been working for offered me a full-time job in the summer of 2018. So I was still working a full-time job 9 to 5, but then I was kind of promoting myself a little bit more with the travel stuff. I had friends that had been reaching out to me when I wasn't doing travel stuff that were like, hey, are you still doing travel things? And I was like, yep, I sure am. And so I continued to just build on that and continue just to promote myself. And then in 2019, continued to grow that even more and just had friends and family who were super supportive and continuing to grow my business that way and continuing to do the trainings with Dugan's and really relying on building up the business. And then we all know what happened in 2020, which thankfully my business was not big enough to be affected really by the whole shutdown of 2020. I think I only canceled 2 bookings. One of those which was going to be a big group trip to Ireland, which we ended up having to cancel. But then I think I only had one other major booking that had to be canceled that year. And so I was very thankful that my business was not as big as some agents who really lost a whole lot in 2020 and 2021. But with all of that, Dugan's was still doing webinars with suppliers and trying to find ways to keep agents engaged, even when people weren't traveling and being supportive and trying to work out, all of the refunds and the commissions and all of that stuff, trying to keep agents kind of stable and working with suppliers that were also trying to keep agents stable. And now since then, I've really continued to grow my business and treat it like a business. And being out there and networking and continuing to contribute to the Dugan's community. The thing I really like about them is that it's a small team. It's a small admin team. We are a small group of agents, but we are all over the country. We all have different interests, different backgrounds. A lot of us have, full-time jobs or came from a corporate setting, and then some have retired, and then this is their retirement job. Some are doing this full-time, some are home raising families and doing this full-time. It's kind of all different levels, which has been really, really fun. And every time I go to a conference, I try to go to our big conference every single year in Anaheim because it is that important to me and my business to do that. But it's so fun to meet all of the other agents that come. It's a very small group. I think usually it's like 35 of us or less. But it's so fun to see the newer agents, and now I'm kind of like the veteran agent. So it's kind of fun to, every time I learn so much. It's always an overwhelming week, but it is absolutely worth it. And I know it's because our team puts so much into our trainings and our conference that we do every year. It truly is like, I tell other agents all the time, like, if you're going to invest in anything for your business, for the year, for your education, it is our annual conference, because it is overwhelming. It is sitting in a conference room from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. listening to suppliers after supplier after supplier after supplier. There's a trade show where you actually get some one-on-one time with them. And then there's like nighttime activities, and just, we usually get to go to Disneyland, or at least go down to downtown Disney and hang out. And sometimes we get to do hotel inspections and kind of do like a mini fam in Anaheim. And it's just always so much fun because the team makes it fun. And it's such a good group of people, and we always end up having really, really great discussions. And I love being a part of that. And I love now being kind of on I don't want to say older, but on kind of the one of the veteran agents that are there that get to talk about my experience and help. I love talking to new agents. And that was partially why I wanted to start this podcast, was because I love seeing the people that are new to the industry and are just kind of overwhelmed with all of the information, or they need help figuring out what their niche is going to be, or where they should go, or how they should figure out how to help their clients. Like, I love having those conversations. So with that, just to talk about host agencies in general. So the things that you want to be thinking about when you're joining a host agency is obviously, what kind of support are you going to get? Are you one of 1,000? Are you one of 100,000? I do know there are host agencies out there that have over 100,000 agents, which just sounds like a ridiculous number to me, because in that world, I feel like you would just be a number. That's what I really like about my host agency, is that, I participate and my team knows me. And so I know if I'm reaching out for help, or if I have a question, like, they know who I am and I know who they am. I know who's on the other side of that email. And so that's always really great, is like, do you want that kind of support where the person that's, answering your questions? Or do you just want to be like faceless and just be running your own thing? Another thing to consider is that not just the administrative support, but also like, do they provide educational opportunities? Are you able to do, all of the supplier trainings, but also are they providing like an annual conference or some kind of training where they're all getting you together with suppliers, where you're meeting suppliers face to face, because that's always huge too. Are they doing webinars online? Are they providing other educational opportunities for you that isn't just go to the supplier's website and do their training? Because it really helps to have those discussions outside of those trainings, especially with suppliers where your BDM in your area that you might see at a local like ASTA show, or even like a travel leader show, is going to be different than the BDM for your host agency. There's all those kinds of things of like the educational stuff, and then figuring out making those connections with either the local BDM or your host agency BDM, because sometimes those are two different people. But having that network of support, that's what's going to help you when your clients are having issues, is having that person that you can go to on the supplier side, which you're going to meet through your host agency or through the conference or through any trainings that you go to. And that's always, like I said, that's the biggest thing for me, is that educational piece and the professional development, because that's what, really translates to my clients having a great time, is that if I can speak to the suppliers, because I know if I have an issue, it's not just, I'm going to contact the BDM. It's like, no, I'm going to contact Amy, and I know Amy can help me with this question. That always really helps to have those personal contacts with people, especially when your clients are having issues, or if they have a question that you can't figure out on your own. That's what your BDMs are there for, is to help you, is to answer some of those questions for you. And then another thing is like the commission and fee structure. So are you paying an annual fee? Are you paying a monthly fee? Are those, when you're comparing between two, like I pay an annual fee, but I know that, I pay a yearly fee with Dugan's, but I know other host agencies, they charge a monthly fee. And it's like, well, is it cheaper? If that's really what you care about, is how much you're paying, the monthly fee cheaper or is an annual fee cheaper? And like, are there structures where if you have so much in sales or if you make so much commission in a year, do your fees go down? Or do they stay the same no matter what your sales are? And then also like your commission structure. Like I get recruiting emails from other host agencies all the time. And it's like, I think they're offering anywhere between 80 and 85% commission. And they're like, but no fees. And I'm like, but I make more than that in my commission. So why would I switch to somebody else to make less commission, even though there's no fee? So there's those types of things to consider too, is definitely be looking at, the commission structure and how much, you can start doing the math and think, okay, well, if I'm selling this kind of trip and the commission percentage from the supplier is 16%, and then I'm making, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95% of that, what does that look like? And then if my fees and contracts on top of that, you can start to kind of do the math and figure out how much your sales would have to be in order to make it worth it for you. And you can compare that against all of the host agencies. And then another thing, of course, is reading online, like host agency reviews. I try to fill out their survey every year. I've been part of their tech talks before. I know that they also do like weekly podcasts talking about all kinds of things travel, but they are a great place to go to. I know a bunch of the agents with my host agency, like we've gone in and written reviews about Dugan's, but they're there for all of the host agencies. So you can really kind of see what other people's experiences are. Also, if you're looking online, like on Facebook, depending on which consortia you're part of. So we are part of Travel Leaders, which is one consortia out there. If you're already part of Travel Leaders in some way, you can join the Facebook group online. And then a lot of people ask about host agencies. I know too, you can look online at, say, Reddit, or I know that it's an app, also a website called Alignable, which is all for networking. But within there's discussions within the industry as well. So I know there's a lot of discussions on there about host agencies and who's with what. I know with the Travel Leaders group, I talk all the time about being part of Dugan's because people are always looking to, maybe they're not happy in their travel agency or their host agency, or they want something different, or they're looking for more support, especially if you're new to the industry. Sometimes host agencies kind of gloss over that and they don't realize how much kind of training or support is needed in the very beginning. And especially like you will learn very quickly once you make a mistake how your agency helps you or they don't help you is a big way to saying where you're going to, stay with them or not, is just how they treat you and how they make you feel. And I know this is really just a big, long love letter to Dugan's because I really do love everyone on the team and just know that it's been, Dugan's has been around for 25 years now. And I tell people all the time, like, if I could go back, if I could time travel, I think the only difference was that I would have joined Dugan's sooner, even though really, like, when they were starting out, I was also just starting in college. So it would have been perfect timing just to like go that route. And I will also say, like, I know plenty of agents that are, in my area, there's one other Dugan's Travels agent in my town. But I think there's like maybe a handful of us in the state because we are spread out all over the country, which is really, really fun. But there are so many other host agencies, and I know so many people that work for others, and obviously they are also succeeding. And, there's also a lot of marketing behind a lot of them. But I will just mention a few also to look at, and also ones that I looked at because I was also very interested when, obviously when I was looking at Dugan's, I was looking at several others. But I know for sure, like, Cruise Planners is everywhere. KHM is another really, really popular one. And Nexion is another one. I know Nexion, and both KHM and Nexion both have really, really great educational opportunities for agents. Outside Agents is another one. Travel Planners is a huge one. World Via, Dream Vacations. Dream Vacations is one that I keep getting emails from them. Vacation Planners, Travel Edge, Avoya is another one. Yeah, there's just so many, and there's so many more than that too, that it just really depends on kind of how big or how small. AAA is another one where, can be a host agency, or Expedia Cruises. There's just so many out there. There's ones that are specifically for just Disney and Universal that just do theme parks. And then there's others that do, just luxury travel. There's so many different host agencies out there. And so that's one of the things, like, before you join, when you're looking, you just kind of need to see if there's one that speaks to you more than others. I know especially for like the agents that really love Disney, they're going to probably join one. Like if that's all that you want to sell is Disney, having one that really markets to just those Disney travelers, is probably a really good fit. There's also ones that are just for like destination weddings, and ones, like I said, for luxury or for just cruising or all of that stuff. Like there's host agencies out there that can cater to whatever your interest is. And I think too, that was for me when I joined Dugan's. Another thing that was actually really intimidating when I joined was there was a sales minimum. Now that sales minimum was like $5,000. Now that isn't like commission. That's literally what your actual sales are for the year, was $5,000, which is really not that much. Like if you book one cruise, that could be that you book one Disney trip, that's $5,000. But that for me, because I was so new and I had no idea what the money was like and what sales looked like, that $5,000 was really intimidating when I first joined. But then when I went to my first Dugan's U and I was talking to a person on the admin team, and she was like, you'll make that no problem. And I did. And so then it was kind of like, oh, okay, this really isn't as scary as it seems on paper, right? And that's a lot. And that's the other great thing of like when you're part of a host agency and you have all of these other agents that you can talk to and be like, hey, what did your first year look like? What did your first 2 years look like? And now knowing so many years later, like the ups and downs of travel. And now I actually have gone back and I track all of my year's total sales and also how much commission I've made every single year. And so that's also just a motivating factor. I was talking to my business coach earlier today and telling her my win for the week was that my goal for this year was to hit 5-star, which is, the elite agents for Dugan's Travels. They all have, everybody has their own version of what that is. But for me, I wanted to hit 5-star, which I hit 5-star for the first time last year. I wanted to do it again this year. And this year I did that and beyond, which was just so exciting. And so next year it's like, okay, well, do I want to hit the next level of 5-star? So there's all of that too. But it's like, if you join a host agency and they have these different levels, if that's a goal of yours is to achieve those goals, are they going to help you get there? Dugan's absolutely has helped give me the education and the understanding and the support and the conversations to help me kind of see things differently and see my business differently so that I can grow it in a way to be able to achieve those goals, which are things that I truly never set goals for my business until 2022. And then it was like, once I actually started setting goals and seeing that that's fully attainable and almost not easy, it's certainly not easy. But once I was able to actually see those being achieved and I was able to kind of surpass those goals, it's just become so much more fun. And having that support and knowing that when I hit 5-star the first time and the head of Dugan's Travels shouted me out saying, look at Cecily, she just hit 5-star the first time and we are so proud of her because we knew this has been a big goal for her. And congratulations, like that means the world to me. And that's something that not every host agency will do because they do not know you on that level. And they also they're not paying attention in that way. Just knowing that those agencies that have, 100,000 agents, they're not going to know what everybody's goals are. And they're not going to see whatever, they're obviously looking at your sales and making sure that you're bringing in commission, but they're not going to personally reach out and say, congratulations on hitting your goal. We knew this was a big deal for you. And so that will always stick with me because that meant so much to me because they knew how hard I worked to get there. And yeah, and we will talk about goal setting and all of those things later on because that's a whole other thing about just business in general, right? And especially you set these goals. And now, like I said, I set the goal of hitting 5-star. I've now done it twice. And it's like, okay, well, no, what's next? If those are the goal, like what's the next thing? If you've hit your goal, you have to now make a bigger goal. Like, what's the next thing? You start a podcast. That's the next goal. So another thing to consider when looking at host agencies is how much freedom you have in your business. Are you forced to use their logo and their brand and you can't have your own company name? Do you get to create your own company name, but it all has to sit within their website format or their domain or whatever? How restrictive are they on how you get to run your business? For me with Dugan's, I'm an independent contractor. I have to say in my marketing, in my emails, on my business card that I am an independent agent of Dugan's Travels. But otherwise, I'm pretty free to have my own branding, have my own website, have my own email, run my business the way that I want to run it. And whatever success looks like to me is to me, but there's really no pressure to hit any sort of major sales goals. Of course, we have our preferred suppliers that they want us to work with, but there's very few restrictions on the suppliers that we can work with. We have a pretty large list of suppliers that we can work with. And so that part's really great too, is just having the freedom to like run our business as we want to. And we all have different goals. We all have different interests. And that's something that's really, really great too about them. So that's something else is like, do you want to have the freedom to run your business as you would like? Or do you want it to be more structured where you have to work within their framework? That's something else to consider. Another thing to look at when you're looking at host agencies is what they provide as far as insurance. For my host agency, they do provide E&O insurance for us. We don't have to take it. If we have sub-agents, we have to get our own insurance. But that is one thing to look at, is what are the things that they are providing to you in addition to the trainings and things like that. But are they providing marketing help? Are you part of a consortia that will provide free marketing for you? You know, that's my host agency is part of Travel Leaders, so we get engagement and marketing and all of the stuff already done for us. That's all included, which is a really, really great program. But those are the things to be looking at, like really those coverages and the important things that are going to help your business and the things that are really going to cover you when you need it. Yeah, that's just another really big component of your business is insurance and protections. And when things go wrong or when clients want to challenge you on something, your host agency needs to be there to support you. And you also have to be, have all of your supporting documentation and all of that stuff. But the insurance, the E&O coverage, all of that is huge. So just another thing to consider when you're looking at host agencies, or what kind of coverages do they provide, or what kind of support do they provide in that way. If they don't provide anything, that would make me kind of question, why not? Why aren't they providing those things for you? I know this has been a very, very long love letter to Dugan's Travels because I really do love them. I am so glad that I am continuing to be with them. I'm so glad I chose them to begin with. I know that it has been a long road for them. I know, like, people have changed, agents have come and gone. I obviously left and came back. I have a history of doing that in jobs. And so it's, when you find that right fit, and that, like, and you kind of start to get like what's going to be beneficial to you and how to use it to your advantage, that's the stuff that really helps you grow in your business. And now having connections with agents, like I have a group chat with other agents from Dugan's that I can reach out to and be like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think? Or when we have our monthly call and the head of Dugan's is going through like the top 25 agents for the month, we'll text each other and be like, congratulations, you hit top 25 or whatever. And so that doesn't happen every month, but when it does, it's like we like to like celebrate each other that, we're doing well in our business. And it's kind of fun to just kind of get feedback from them. And it's so fun. I mean, it really is, like, every year when we meet in Anaheim, it is a reunion. And this year we had the same amount of 5 stars as we had new agents in the room. And that was really exciting. Like I said, having new agents, talking to people that are new to the industry, brainstorming with them, helping them get ideas for their business is like the most fun for me. I love doing that stuff. So my tip for this week is to definitely check out host agency reviews. If you love your host, absolutely. Even go on there. If you love your host, maybe go write a review for them on host agency reviews and definitely check that out. I definitely recommend doing their survey every year, because once you do the survey, you actually get the results from the survey sent to you. I got mine today, and it is really enlightening, and just the industry in general, and seeing how other agents are doing, especially those that are hosted, because it's kind of a mix. It's mostly obviously hosted agents, but then there's some independent that also answer the survey. So it's very interesting to see the results from that and kind of the trends that they're seeing within the travel industry, the travel advisor industry anyway. And so that was a really, really interesting read for me. And if you're new and you're thinking about finding a host agent reviews is definitely a great place to start. And especially like if you just aren't sure, reach out to them or reach out to agents that are part of that agency and just see, what they have to say. And especially like it's so easy to find people now and see where they're at. And even like here in my town, like I know that there is a cruise planners agent not far from me. So if I had questions about like if I did consider switching, I would know people that I could reach out to and be like, hey, I'm here local in town. I see your stuff all over town. I know you sponsor events and things like that. I'd love to talk to you more about your experience with them. And you can, I'm always happy, obviously, to talk about Dugan's, but I know other agents that are with other host agencies that would be more than happy to do the same. And again, Dugan's is not sponsoring this, but it truly is just a love letter to them, because I love what they do. I love how they support agents and how they want agents to succeed in whatever success looks like for them. Today's episode of Life Between Flights was sponsored by me, Traveling North, produced by me and edited by Nomad Creations. Please check out the show notes for referral links, discount codes, and more resources that I've talked about in this episode. You can also follow along on our social media on Facebook and Instagram at Life Between Flights Pod. If you want help planning your next adventure, you can always check me out at travelingnorthagency.com. If you have any questions, ideas, or would like to sponsor this podcast, you can email us at lifebetweenflightspod@gmail.com.